President Buhari departs Abuja for China on an official visit towards securing greater support for the development of Nigeria's infrastructure.
Vice President Oshibajo reiterates government's determination to deliver on its campaign promises.
Federal government commits to completion of Kashimbila multipurpose dam in Taraba State.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today we focus on addressing unemployment in Nigeria.
A time it was in this nation when not less than 3 employment letters await a graduate to choose from after graduation. Well, I didn't meet that time.
Well, bless you. You're talking about the 1960s and more particularly the 60s and the 70s. By the mid-80s, the story had started to change. But at the time you referred to when employment letters awaited fresh graduates, the agricultural and manufacturing sectors were booming in full capacity. At the same time, of course, the country's population was well below 80 million. But the story is radically different today.
That's right. Obviously, many graduates have spent decades in search of jobs to do, and hence we have the high employment rate, which has placed Nigeria as one of the highest in or unemployment rate, rather, which has placed the country, of course, the highest in sub-Saharan Africa.
The National Bureau of Statistics says that the number of unemployed and underemployed persons in Nigeria surged to some 22.45 million in the last quarter of 2015. And at that figure, it's about 9.1% or 1.75 million higher than the 20.7 million recorded in the third quarter of last year.
Talking about the high percentage, many also have been thrown into the already saturated labor markets following the persistent fall in the oil prices. Well, many oil and gas companies in Nigeria have reduced their direct and also the indirect jobs by about 120,000. Globally, the slump in oil prices have also claimed more than 200,000 jobs in the sector. The manufacturing sector also witnessed some layoff of over 40,000 staff in Nigeria.
The World Bank recently estimated that Nigeria needed to create between 40 million and 50 million new jobs in order to be able to absorb new labor market entrants by year 2030. Now, according to the World Bank, the informal sector of the economy would appear to have greater potential for growth and employment generation.
Well, the big question is, how can these jobs be created? What are the likely solutions to actually solve this unemployment situation? How do we begin to tackle the issue of unemployment in Nigeria? Well, what are the short and long-term solutions to these? Of course, this big challenge in the country. It's not just in the country, because somehow the spiral effect from the global scene is actually being felt here as well. Well, these are some of the questions that our guests will attempt to provide answers to on today's edition of the program, Good Morning Nigeria. I welcome you to this edition. It's a fresh one for the week, and it's showing on the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. My name is Blessing Abu. Welcome.
And I'm Kingsley Osadulo, and I join Blessing in welcoming you to this edition of the program, as always, live on the network service of the NTA. Well, in the course of the program, we have our usual companion segments. This, of course, business is coming up presently. The same thing with the news, before business, newspaper review, and other segments. So there will be sports, of course. A Nigerian-born Britisher, of course, made history yesterday over the weekend in London, when he became the new IBF heavyweight champion of the world. And of course, there are other sports stories. Of course, on Friday, if you recall, Blessing, we also had with us here the INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner for the FCT. And one of the jokes that we cracked was to say, look, we hope that the FCT elections, council elections, will not be inconclusive. But it would appear that the elections have been inconclusive. Yes, 6 area councils, only 2 of the results for the 6 area councils have been released. That's just about 30% of the results released so far, and the returning officers have declared it inconclusive. Welcome once again to Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. We're going over to the newsroom now, and here is Lydia Sampson as our guide. Hi, Lydia.
Hi, Kingsley. Hi to you, Blessing too, and to Nigerians. Here's the news. President Muhammadu Buhari left Abuja Sunday evening for an official visit to the People's Republic of China. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the president, accompanied by some governors and members of the Federal Executive Council, departed Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at about 7:30 in the evening. He was seen off by senior government officials, including the Chinese embassy officials in Nigeria. While in Beijing, President Buhari is expected to hold talks with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping and other senior government officials aimed at securing greater support for the development of Nigeria's infrastructure. This is aimed at enhancing the nation's power, roads, railways, aviation, water supply, and housing sectors. During the visit, several new agreements and memorandum of understanding are expected to be finalized between the two countries and signed for implementation. Meanwhile, Nigerian embassy officials in Beijing have put finishing touches to arrangements for a successful visit to China by President Muhammadu Buhari, as reported by our correspondent Julieta Aino.
Mr. President enjoys tremendous goodwill in this country. In my official interactions with both the government and the business environment, they always tell me that they are fully in support of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari's leadership in Nigeria.
In the meantime, diversification of the Nigerian economy through agricultural mechanization is one of the top issues Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is meant to secure a lasting solution to in his 5-day state visit to China. Some members of the Nigerian Governors Forum, led by the President of the Forum, Alhaji Abdulaziz Yari Abubakar, the Executive Governor of Zamfara State, have been in negotiations with relevant companies and officials in China to arrive at the best framework for cooperation agreement, which will be signed by the Nigerian and Chinese government to improve agricultural sector.
That's why the president is taking his time to come and visit the Republic of China, and the Chinese people, they have the same kind of, system with Nigeria. So agriculture is the end thing now. As far as the oil is concerned, I think we should start forgetting about oil. With the new innovations of our president and the Governors Forum, they are very serious. We came in before even the president so that we can go around and see things for ourselves. And I can assure you very soon things will be okay.
So many agreements, so many bilateral, so many MOU will be signed with the federal government and some of the companies that are here. So many companies has interest in Nigeria. So we are going to work with them closely to learn from their experience and at the same time to use the same technique they use to reach the level where they are today in terms of agriculture, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of industrialization.
Back home in Nigeria, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has reiterated the determination of the Buhari administration to deliver on all its campaign promises towards ensuring a better life for all Nigerians. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that the Vice President was speaking in Kano at the foundation laying ceremony for the construction of affordable housing units for low and medium income earners.
It's okay to build houses for the middle class, houses that only a few people can afford. But the vast majority of our people cannot pay for their own houses. They cannot pay the kind of money that it costs to build a house. This is why government's intervention is so important.
The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has declared Saturday's FCT chairmanship election in Gwagwalada, Kuje, and Abuja municipal area councils inconclusive. The commission, however, announced that Musa Dikko of All Progressives Congress won Buhari area council election. He polled 18,066 votes to defeat the PDP candidate Andrew Igu, who came second with 13,279 votes. Wada Abdul of AA, 93 votes, and Kenneth Olabamiji of CPP, 72 votes. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has denied media reports that Islamist militant group Boko Haram is demanding $50 million from the Nigerian government as ransom before releasing the abducted Chibok schoolgirls. The minister says President Muhammadu Buhari has promised to do all he can to ensure the release of the schoolgirls, following his recent meeting with parents of the abducted girls at the presidential villa in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. He said ransom reports are not new in an interview with Voice of America. Lai Mohammed said the accusations that the Buhari administration appears not to be doing enough to secure the release of the more than 200 Chibok girls is not fair. He added that the administration has technically defeated Boko Haram, but critics says the militants' continue attacks of unarmed civilians, including the use of suicide bombers, show Boko Haram remains potent despite government's report. However, the truth of the matter, he said, is that it is not a matter that the government is taking lightly, and those who want a daily report on what efforts are being made on security must follow due process. Lai Mohammed maintained that Nigeria's military has been able to wrestle control of territories previously under the control of the Boko Haram militants. He also said the militants have been dislodged from their fortresses, including their main operation center in the Sambisu forest, and that government has moved on from that and is now concentrating very much on the rehabilitation and resettlement of those who are displaced. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babachir David Lawal, has inaugurated the removal of invasive species of typhoid grass across the Komadugu-Yobe River Channel and 115 hectares of simplified irrigation system in Guru, Yobe State. Mustafa Yusuf Musa reports that the project, covering 4 council areas in the state, was sponsored by the Presidential Initiative for the Northeast to reinvigorate its economy and improve the people's lives.
We should first clear this terrible grass, so that it will avail the farmers the place for irrigation, and the water will flow for the fishing and other irrigational activities.
We have contractors working in Adamawa, Gaya, so many places. They are all over. We are rehabilitating over 65 schools in the northeast currently.
Officers and men of the Nigerian Air Force have been challenged to key into the vision of rebuilding a more efficient fighting force in defense of the territorial integrity of the nation. Correspondent Ifeanyi Ezumba reports that Chief of Policy and Plans, Air Vice Marshal James Groom, stated this at the Thanksgiving service and reunion of the Nigerian Air Force at 52.
We have everything to thank God. Taking us this far and to grant us success in this celebration.
If you look at that team we have, if you split it into 2, you see that the first lecture, which is about activating our reserve system, while the second one that is talking about challenges of air power.
The federal government says all the issues hindering the completion of Kashimbila multipurpose dam will soon be addressed. Minister of Water Resources Suleiman Adamu stated this when he visited the project in Takum local government area of Taraba State. Correspondent Musbah Wahab reports that the minister was accompanied by the state governor Darius Ishaku on the visit.
In the budget for 2016, what we try to do is to put priority on such ongoing projects to ensure that we have funding, regular funding for this project. It's a top priority project for us to complete, and we'll do whatever it takes within our ability to ensure that this project is completed.
We ensure it is fully funded, and we'll ensure it is carried to conclusive end.
As part of measures to engage the youths in meaningful ventures, the wife of the Nasarawa State Governor, Salamat Tutanko Al-Makura, has initiated an irrigation farm project in the state. Jamila Abubakar reports that the program is designed to assist vulnerable groups and orphans to earn a living.
I would like to, at this point, call on the people of Dedere, especially the target audience, to use this opportunity to improve on themselves.
And that's the news for now. We go over to Kingsley and Blessing, who are both standing and sitting by, to go on with Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, dear Lydia Sampson, for the news on Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, it will be time for our business segment.
Does your antiseptic liquid kill the germs that cause flu, diarrhea, typhoid? Dettol does. Dettol provides 10 times more protection versus leading competition. Dettol is the #1 selling antiseptic liquid, proven to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs. So why take a risk with your loved ones?
Introducing the new Dettol 55-gram soap with the same germ protection and quality at a more affordable price. Buy the new Dettol 55-gram soap for 18 naira only. Keep your family protected from germs.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
To copy this tune, press 11. To copy this tune, press 11. This tune, press 11.
So you must marry me. You go love me. You go kill me, baby. You go follow me. You're my remedy. You're my melody.
From yesteryear's evergreens to today's classics, MTN Color Tunes has got them all. Dial *410# or text APP to 4100.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Sensitivity definitely holds you back. You tend to avoid a whole lot of things, and that's not you. You have a tiring day, and you grab the cold water, and you're drinking it. The pain comes, and it's always very sharp, and you just stop for like some seconds, and people will be talking to you, be like, wait. And that was where I was like, okay, I have to do something about it. So I saw a dentist, and she recommended Sensodyne. I'm like, I just need a toothpaste. Life's back to normal, even better than normal. All's good. No pain, no shock.
You get 3 kinds of moms. The paranoid mom, the cautious mom, and the Dettol mom. She only trusts Dettol antiseptic liquid to protect her family from up to 100 illness-causing germs, and it's recommended for cuts and scrapes, which is why you can worry less and love more. Don't just be any mom, be a Dettol mom.
Introducing the new Dettol 55-gram soap with the same germ protection and quality at a more affordable price. Buy the new Dettol 55-gram soap for 18 naira only. Keep your family protected from germs.
Thank you for staying with us. The program is Good Morning Nigeria, if you just joined us. It's time for our business package. Now, Nigeria's inflation figures to be out this week as all the Nigerian stock exchange records on impressive run in the past week. Details with Leah Katung-Babatunde.
Inflation figures for the month of March 2016 are likely to cross the 12% threshold as Nigerians anxiously await the data scheduled to be released this week by the National Bureau of Statistics. As the exchange rate uncertainty continues, consumer prices are highly expected to remain on the high side. In addition, with the fuel scarcity expected to persist till next month as transportation costs have remained elevated. Now, analysts at ProShares say they expect inflation to still remain in the region above 11%. A new report released by investment firm Financial Derivatives Company FDC. The analysts forecast that Nigeria's headline inflation reading for the month of March will rise to 12.1%. If the March inflation forecast by FDC comes true, it would be the third consecutive monthly increase in Nigeria's inflation since the beginning of the year. Prices of domestic commodities ranging from palm oil to cement are showing signs of the direct impact of an acute petrol shortage that had lasted the entire month of March. Now, the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDEN, has been urged to package high empowerment programs and activities to do more in enhancing productivity of smallholder businesses, especially those by women. Governor of Katsina State, Aminu Bello Masari, said women empowerment must be taken seriously, adding that most women are micro-entrepreneurs and need all the support. He was speaking in Abuja when he paid a visit to the Director General of the agency, Dr. Diko Umaru Rada. Masari emphasized on the need to utilize the 220 billion naira CBN MSME fund, which allotted 60% to women to empower them, as studies have shown women handle finances better than men. Reacting, the DG, Dr. Dikoreta, said the agency is working to activate a committee of experts on MSMEs to share knowledge and experiences and how to improve the sector for overall growth. Market uncertainties have continued to take toll on the Nigerian Stock Exchange as mixed sentiments trailed the performance of the bourse in the past week. Let's take a look at latest figures from the NSE. Governor of Katsina State, Aminu Bello Masari, said women empowerment must be taken seriously, adding that most women are micro-entrepreneurs and need all the support. He was speaking in Abuja when he paid a visit to the Director General of the agency, Dr. Diko Umaru Rada. Masari emphasized on the need to utilize the 220 billion naira CBN MSME fund, which allotted 60% to women to empower them, as studies have shown women handle finances better than men. Reacting, the DG, Dr. Dikoreta, said the agency is working to activate a committee of experts on MSMEs to share knowledge and experiences and how to improve the sector for overall growth. Trade growth to remain subdued in 2016 as uncertainties weigh on global demand. Growth in the volume of world trade is expected to remain sluggish in 2016 and at 2.8% unchanged from the 2.8% increase registered in 2015. The World Trade Organization, WTO, says imports of developed countries should moderate this year, while demand for imported goods in developing Asian economies should pick up. In a forecast for 2016, WTO says global trade growth should rise to 3.6% in 2017. It stated that risks to these forecasts are mostly on the downside, including a sharper than expected slowing of the Chinese economy, worsening financial market volatility, and exposure of countries with large foreign debts to sharp exchange rate movements. On the other hand, there is some upside potential if monetary support from the European Central Bank ECB succeeds in generating faster growth in the euro area. WTO Director General Roberto Azevedo said trade is still registering positive growth, albeit at a disappointing rate. He said there remains as well the threat of creeping protectionism as many governments continue to apply trade restrictions and the stock of these barriers continues to grow. Now that's business news for this hour. Do have a pleasant week ahead.
All right, thank you very much there, Leah Katung-Babatunde, for the business package. Now it's time for us to take a look at the headlines in some of today's newspapers.
Yes, Bayo has joined us again this morning to take a look at the headlines with us. Good morning to you, Bayo.
Good morning, Blessing. How was your weekend? Good
Well,
morning,
great.
Nigeria.
At least we feel situation is still there, but people are trying to move. Most importantly. Okay, let's take a look at what the Daily Trust is leading with this morning. FIRS hires 5 directors secretly. Revenue down by 2.17 trillion naira in 2015. That's how the Daily Trust captures its leading headline. But just above that, we have Buhari. We're committed to Jonathan's deal with China. The details of that you could be found on page 5. Recent events may factionalize APC. That is coming from Baraje. But still on Buhari's movement, the Punch has the budget. Buhari shuns National Assembly's offer. Heads for China to sign loan deal. That story continues on page 2. Kingsley?
Well, the other 3 papers that I have lead with the story on the 2016 budget. Let's take The Guardian first. Presidency, National Assembly move to end rift over 2016 budget. And it has 3 riders. Nigeria's debt profile hits 12 trillion naira. How lawmakers moved votes for polio, ARV drugs to tricycles and town halls. An executive misleading Nigerians on budget, says Jibrin. And government targets 4 areas for growth. For the Nation newspaper, the headline is as follows. Budget 2016 crisis rages on. And 2 riders, Lagos-Calabar rail project not included, and talks open to avert showdown. And just below that, you have another headline, DMO, that's Debt Management Office. Nigeria not threatened by 12 trillion naira debt. Details of that can be found on page 12. For Vanguard, the lead story has a kicker, 2016 budget palaver. Presidency gives fresh conditions for assent. And it has a number of riders. Confronts NAS, that's National Assembly, with details of distortion, and wants them to rework bill or accept supplementary budget. And senators and reps divided to tackle issue tomorrow. And federal government to borrow 1.884 trillion naira from external and domestic markets. And just above that is a headline also to business. It says, Nigeria remains best place to invest in the world. And this is attributed to Dangote, Africa's richest man. Details of that on page 2. Bayo.
Yes, Nigeria remains the best investment destination on the continent of Africa. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari left Abuja about 7:30 p.m. yesterday for China. At the time he was leaving, it was already 2:30 in the afternoon in China. I'm sure the president is still airborne. Kingsley, you remember when you went to Taiwan, closer there, it took about 13 to 14 hours of flight, isn't it?
Absolutely.
To get there. So the president could still be airborne. But meanwhile, significantly, a loan agreement to finalize infrastructure of 2016 budget had to be considered. 3 months after taking office, it will be recalled President Muhammadu Buhari had cause to query why the $1 billion loan, which was taken to Lagos Kano Rail project, was diverted, and it had only 400 million remaining. Debt Management Office will have to put together the several loans agreements for review, update, and faster result for the bilateral talks that will go there. Meanwhile, over the weekend at the Lagos Business School, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, says the Nigerian economy has been inherited in a state that requires a refining towards a new era. She said that in the past, we had the means but not the will. Now that we have the will, but no longer the money from oil to invest, we now have to adopt a safety blanket of oil rip-off, and government has to reset plan for the economy. He says that there is going to be a new structured approach, structured borrowing, targeted investment, and diversified growth. She calls the new strategy counter-cycling budget expenditure model, CCBE model. He said this has worked around the world for other nations, and hopefully it will work for us. But talking about 2016 budget, Punch reports that the peace overtures by the members of the National Assembly that the president should, by principle, sign the budget and later on send a supplementary budget so that things can move on has failed. They said that there is considerable distortions in the budget. According to the Punch report, a sum of about 6.6 trillion, which is the basis of part of the counterpart for which the president has traveled to China, has been removed from the budget. Lagos to Kano Rail was passed, but Calabar to Lagos was removed. Road projects, major road projects for connection were also reduced, with new ones proposed, which has no survey at all conducted. From the point of view of the Punch, they also talk about health. Here, proposals for essential drugs for polio, AIDS have been removed, and in place, allocation for ambulance that the ministry did not ask for. There is also discrepancies which were reportedly noted during Friday's emergency meeting, which was presided over by Vice President Yemi Oshibajo. Before departing for China, there was a meeting between the President, the Vice President, and Minister of Budget Planning. And the advice to the President is to hold on, not to sign, until all the alleged distortions have been put together. Punch says investigation showed that 109 senators and 360 members had no knowledge of the details of the budget. It was reported that the members reposed the confidence in the appropriation committee, and one of them is alleging that, in fact, the job of looking at the budget was fashioned out to a consultant. So what are the fallouts? The majority leader in the House, Leo Ogose Buhari, is free to reject the budget if it did not fall in line with the economic agenda. Honorable Abdulmumini says Lagos Calabar Rail that is alleged to be removed was not in the budget in the first place. The Senate leader, Ali Undume, says that, look, he's not aware of this so-called meeting between presidency and National Assembly. Our concern now should be how to move Nigeria forward instead of speculations that have going to heat up the polity. Senator Abdullahi Sabi says the Constitution did not make the legislature a rubber stamp. We did not pad budget. We appropriated in line with the issues of consultation with ministries, departments, and agencies. National Assembly helped the executive pass a badly written budget. Executive should follow constitutional process. So that is the latest on the 2016 budget.
All right, Bayo, well, that's the headline we read earlier from The Nation saying the budget 2016 crisis rages. And they just above the name flag of The Nation newspaper, we have a raft of headlines. El Rufai can't license religious preachers. Details of that on page 37. And EFCC probes close in payment of 1 billion naira to ghost workers. 3 suspected Fulani kidnappers killed in Niger, or in Niger. That's details of that can be found on page 7. And federal government seeking source of Chibok girls' ransom demand. And APC wins Buhari and Abaji councils as others inconclusive. Details on page 37. And just very briefly, Blessing, before I come over to you, there's an economic story on the front page of The Guardian, at the foot of the front page of The Guardian, above the advert there. It says, NNPC withheld $4.2 billion proceeds in second half of 2015, says report. And stock index provider to delist Nigeria as forex scarcity lingers.
Well, in these days of scarcity, one quick story in the inside page, page 5 of The Punch. Fire got 3 fuel tankers with 15 cars. Well, the person actually said they counted up our 15 cars. It could be more. That's in Lagos. And still in Lagos axis, I work for Lagos policeman, says suspected robber.
Well, that robber you talk about is a small boy who was very troublesome. So his father took him to a policeman to discipline him. The policeman gave him 5,000 and asked him to come back the next day. They entered into an oath, and the policeman will periodically give him stolen phones to go and sell. After he has sold the phone, he will take him to the place. They will arrest the man, handcuff the boy, take him to the place, arrest the man. The man will plead and pay about 150,000 and let go. Then another time, he will give him another set of phone. He will take to the market, sell it, and the system was going on. He identified 3 policemen that were involved. But the Ogun State Police Command says they are investigating. Lagos State Police Command says they have investigated. They don't have such a police officer. But meanwhile, the issue of the Chibok girls that Kingsley read, federal government says that it is not true that Boko Haram has demanded 50 million ransom to release 219 Chibok girls. You will recall that in another 3 days, it will be April 14th, that will be 730 days, 2 years since the girls were taken away. Well, information by the Honorable Minister of Information, Mr. Lai Mohammed, says that in fact there are several versions. One version says that Boko Haram was demanding 1 million euro for the release of 10 girls, and this was told to the Voice of America. The latest one was reported in the Sunday Telegraph of the United Kingdom, and it was said to have been there for about 3 months ago. They say it is not true, and government is still pursuing its determination to see that not only Chibok girls, all people who are released. There's crisis also in the NFFF. This followed a court ruling over the weekend. Over this Saturday, the board of the NFF was dissolved, and Festo Keyamo says that the court never gave a ruling in favor of Giwa, who was not a party to the case.
All right, well, let's say there will be many more matters arising from the crisis, perhaps unending crisis in the NFF. Bayo Atoyebi, I would like to thank you for being with us today. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right, we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll proceed with our principal item for discussion this morning. That is to say, addressing the unemployment crisis in Nigeria.
There are 3 kinds of moms. The paranoid mom, the cautious mom, and the Dettol mom. She only trusts Dettol antiseptic liquid to protect her family from up to 100 illness-causing germs, and it's recommended for cuts and scrapes. Which is why you can worry less and love more. Don't just be any mom, be a Dettol mom.
Introducing the new Dettol 55-gram soap with the same germ protection and quality at a more affordable price. Buy the new Dettol 55-gram soap for 80 Naira only. Keep your family protected from germs.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Hey guys, so I've recently become a mommy and it is the greatest feeling in the world, but also pretty daunting too. I'm sure you new moms can relate to my experience. Choosing the right diaper, there's so many brands out there. I used Pampers in the UK when I had Jamil and it was great. But some of my friends told me that Nigerian Pampers weren't as good, so we decided to try it for ourselves. Who slept so well? Who's a dry baby? Nigerian Pampers gets the thumbs up from me and the thumbs up from baby Jamil. He stays dry, he sleeps well, and you can see how much happy energy he has in the morning. I recommend Pampers to all of my friends. Don't take my word for it. Try it yourself and share your experiences.
Daily exposure to different environments leads to a buildup of germs, oil, and dirt. These can cause blemishes and uneven skin tone. You need new Dettol Even Tone. It removes 99.9% of germs and is formulated to remove excess oil and dirt, helping to reduce the appearance of blemishes, giving your family the confidence of healthy, even-toned skin. For an even better you, new Dettol Even Tone.
Endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Introducing the new Dettol 55-gram soap with the same germ protection and quality at a more affordable price. Buy the new Dettol 55-gram soap for 80 Naira only. Keep your family protected from germs.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Introducing the new 5 Alive Pulpy Orange.
Where is the pulp? The pulp. Where is the pulp?
Taste the the goodness of real orange pulp in every gulp.
Where's the pulp?
The new 5 Alive Pulpy Orange, now in your neighborhood.
If you just joined us, the program is Good Morning Nigeria, showing on Africa's largest television network, the NTA. Now to a background to prompt our conversation this morning. Massive job losses have been reported in the last few months in both public and private sectors of the economy. This development is impacting negatively on the already saturated labor market, as Timothy Yusuf tells us in this background report.
Nigeria's monocultural economy, which has been largely sustained by crude oil earnings, is now facing challenging times due to the fall in oil prices. This downturn in the economy has come with job losses, thereby worsening the unemployment situation. Latest figures from the National Bureau of Statistics says the unemployment figures have gone from over 9% to over 10%, from over 20 million to more than 21 million. Some analysts feel this figure should be discountenanced because the NBS figures show that only 1 out of every 10 Nigerians is without a job. The contents that the situation is worse. This seems to be corroborated with the assertion of some labor leaders. President of the Federation of Construction Industries, Solomon Ogumbusola, reveals that in the last few months, over 120,000 jobs may have been lost in the oil and gas sector. In the construction sector, close to 70,000 workers have been laid off by different companies between July 2015 and now, according to Amechi Asuguni, president of the National Union of Civil Engineering Construction, Furniture and Woodworkers. About 40,000 jobs are also reported to have been lost in the manufacturing sector in the last few months, while the banking sector is said to be planning to lay off staff through a strategy called appraisal. Over 500,000 Nigerians are further said to be at the risk of losing their jobs in the telecom sector, while in the textile industry, quite a number of staff have lost their jobs, in addition to the 150,000 persons recorded over the last 20 years. Analysts describe this ongoing situation as worrisome, especially for an economy with a large population of unemployed. Good Morning Nigeria seeks to x-ray and at the same time suggest the way out of the situation.
Well, thank you very much there, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. We have a number of guests to discuss how we can profile solutions to the unemployment crisis in the country. At this time, we'd like to welcome the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige. Senator Ngige, it's our pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. And then we also have with us in the studios here, Dr. Peter Uzoeson, is the General Secretary of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC. Uzoeson, it's our pleasure to have you on the program.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Okay. And Blessing, we have two other guests.
I guess only about 3.
Yes.
Okay, join us still in Abuja studio. We have Moses Siasia, is a chairman of Nigerian Young Professionals Forum, and is here with us in Abuja studio. Mr. Siasia, welcome to the program.
Very much glad.
From our Lagos Network studio, we have Abdul Ganiu Mohammed. He's a divisional head, SMEs South Bank of Industry. Thank you for joining us on the program, Mr. Mohammed.
Good morning, Nigerians.
So the other guests will be joining us in a short while. Of course, let's pop the first question, of course, to the Honorable Minister. Of course, those figures as painted in the background reports definitely are startling for us and mind-boggling, really. Unemployment is a worrisome situation for all the world leaders and even for us as an administration presently. And part of the campaign promises for this administration was job creation, and creating an employment. Where are we presently?
Yeah, thank you very much. The Buhari administration, while we were campaigning, we did promise Nigerians we will create more jobs. So the ones we already have. And we were sworn in as government 29 May. Ministers came on board in November. I'm just 4 months, 29 days or thereabout on the job. And we came did a critical appraisal of what's on ground. What we saw was mind-boggling. It wasn't what we bargained for, actually, because a lot of harm has been done to the economy. A lot of funds have been looted. Take it in terms of the earnings of the country. In the last 10 years, let's just say 10 years, Nigeria has been earning about $110 per barrel of oil, 105. And the national budgets of Nigeria have been predicated on about 70, 72, 75, and that kind of figure. And we had big money to save. Where is the money? We came on board and we saw that no savings. Everything had been frittered away. Not only were there no savings, monies were stolen at will. Our common patrimony, our common wealth was balkanized. Unfortunately, too, oil prices dipped. Drastic fall, not even deep. Not even a dip. From $105 a barrel to $35 a barrel, $30 a barrel. So the father of the house that had been earning about 105 naira suddenly starts earning 30 naira, 35 naira. There's bound to be some problem, especially when there were no savings for the rainy day. But we are not resigning ourselves to fate or throwing up our hands and saying, oh, wallowing in self-pity, come and save us. No. As a government, we decided to take the bull by the horn. First and foremost, in my ministry, we decided to engage all employers of labor, in the public sector and in the private sector. Public sector, federal government and state governments, local governments. No retrenchment. You can weed off the so-called ghost workers. And you can cut down on your spending. And that's what the federal government has done. And as I speak, we are, as a federal government, in proper shape with the payment of our personnel costs and even allowances. Some state governments have problems. And in the National Economic Council, they've been advised on what to do. You have to prune down on your spending. You have to cut down on your running costs, cut down on your so-called security votes, and of course, diversify. The federal government itself is diversifying. We're going into agriculture, mining, because we need to look for other sources of revenue, not oil. Oil is no more attractive. The shale oil of America and so many other sources of energy have all impinged on the price of oil. I don't even think the price of oil will get to $100 a barrel anymore. So if anybody is thinking in that direction, perish it. Perish the idea. So that's why the federal government have decided to diversify. We're mining, we're putting up new mining laws and everything, and to encourage state governments even to go into mining and farming. Agriculture. We built up all our universities, all our investments in the former regional government from agriculture. Palm produce, cocoa, cotton, groundnut. Those products are still there. Why are we not getting them? Today, Nigeria is importing oil, palm kernel oil from Malaysia. Big shame. We're importing beans. We're importing toothpicks. We're importing potatoes. We're importing even tomato. No, it cannot continue. It's profligacy. The era is gone. So we have engaged our public sector. We also, as a ministry, decided, we drew up a work plan to engage the private sector and say, yes, there's a downturn. Number one, the downturn will not last forever. especially the oil industry. And so we started from there. We started with the IOCs, that's the international oil companies. We started with the unions, and we brought them all together, and we had held a summit. Keep the jobs as is, by all any means, even if it means slashing allowances at top and bringing down. But within, try to keep the job. Don't declare unnecessary redundancy. We've done that with the oil sector. We are going to do with the banking sector. Because if you make profit, if you're making profit all along in your banking and reaping the profit, today is a new day. The profits are not big, but tomorrow could be better. So keep the jobs too. We are also going to the electricity union, where we have new investors. And these new investors, they're suspicious of the unions. And even the unions, because they were employees of the former ECN, NEPA, PACN, they're also afraid of these new investors. They believe that they're capitalists, that they've come to devour them to make unnecessary profit. And the investors themselves have not seen unionism as something they need. That's why we get report that a place like Ikeja, distribution company, that they laid off some staff, about 300 or thereabout. And we invited them. I have a very strong department of trade union and industrial relations matters. Very strong department. I'm so pleased that I inherited such a department. It's the only thing I'm happy about in my ministry. Others are trying, but that department, so they are up and doing. And we've invited them. And they started saying, oh, we laid this 300 off, but we employed 600. Where are the statistics of the 600? Because the unions have complained to us. And we now said, employer-employee relationship is not a slave relationship. There must be dialogue. That is the essence of unionism. You must dialogue with them, so we force them back to go on dialogue. Because if you had engaged them from the first day ab initio and say these 300 people are not productive, they have disciplinary matters on their necks, and we want to lay them off and get fresh people, you discuss it with them. The union themselves will agree for you to proceed. But you don't get up, wake up, and sack them. It's against the labor laws of the country.
Okay, well, Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment, thank you very much for your opening salvo in response to the question posed by my colleague. We'll come back to you in the course of this conversation.
That's right.
But let's get the perspective of the NLC on all of this. While we were opening this program this morning, my colleague and I, that's Blessing, we bantered on some of the data coming out from the National Bureau of Statistics, indicating the latest figures, according to it, of persons, who have lost their jobs, in the last quarter of 2015. Now, the Honorable Minister has indicated a raft of measures being adopted by the government to stymie, further job losses and, of course, create more job opportunities. What is the reaction of the NLC to what's playing out in the labor market, as well as attempts, to increase the population of your members?
Well, the job market, no doubt, is in a very chaotic situation right now. Of course, when you have a downturn in an economy, the labor market shows the type of weakness that we're seeing now, because the economy has to do well in order for employment to pick up. Right now, in the labor market, it is the buyer's market. And that is why all these abuses can take place. But our perspective is that, first, let's separate two segments of the market. The public sector. As the Honorable Minister said, we know that the federal government has reiterated and continuously done so that there will be no jobs shedding. They're not going to lay off workers. And I think that that is necessary. Because when you have a recession, part of the way of getting out of that recession is also to reflate aggregate demand. If you are laying off workers and therefore cutting what is the wage bill, you are then further compounding the aggregate demand situation, and that can deepen the recession. So from the public sector side and from the federal government side, we are reasonably satisfied with the position taken that no job, there will be no layoffs. Unfortunately, some of the state governments have not bought into that philosophy sufficiently, including states governed by the APC. You are aware how we had to mobilize and go to Imo State, where the governor sacked, thousands of people by radio pronouncement, even after we had met with him and reached an understanding that no layoffs would take place. Well, we had to go there, and hopefully we reached some accommodation, and those people have been recalled. But even in some other areas, is something playing out in Kaduna, even Kaduna State right now, in which there is a deliberate attempt to invade the rights of workers to freely determine what unions they can belong to. And once you have succeeded in doing that, you can then pick and throw away without resistance. So I think that part of the thing the federal government needs to do is to, well, Honorable Minister has said that through the Economic Council of State, they have already advised them that they need to continue to reach out to the states so that they do what is right and what is within the labor laws, so that they do not violate. So public sector, if we manage though, I think that can at least ensure some stability as to where we are. But beyond that, the government, the APC, when it was coming, actually promised that it would create more jobs. Well, at least in two areas, something has happened recently. One, the promised employment of graduate teachers is, and we hope, will be done and done speedily and done properly, so that that will raise at least the level of employment in that area. There are other programs that I think that both in the short term and in the medium term that the federal government can use to address the unemployment problem. Because when you have this type of situation, we need to first look at, in the short term, what can we do? And some of the job interventions in the short term do not need to be, the regular types of jobs. They can be short-term job creation, either to do particular public works or to address particular issues. The employment of 10,000 policemen, that a policy that they have just put in place, is one such intervention that can be done. But we do believe that there are several others that can be done. But in the private sector, there is a monumental crisis, because here we are finding that it is just like a jungle. People are not obeying the national laws that regulate employment relationships. And that is the beginning point. Because even if a company is, given the economic crisis, is about to go under, there are laid down procedures for declaring redundancies and all that, and there are rights that the workers have, and these would need to be followed. But we do appreciate the ministry's engagement that has taken place, because we are aware in the oil sector and in other sectors, I think they need also to continue and sustain this, because that will help to then get these people to do well. The Honorable Minister has praised his Industrial Relations Department, which is very good. But I think that what needs in this period to also be concentrated on is to rebuild what used to be the inspectorate department or division of that ministry. Because what we're finding, because when you talk of unemployment, in a situation that we're in, we find that some employers who are not, do not have the general interest at heart of the country, then create, employment environments that are like slave camps. And increasingly, we are facing those, where people are locked into factories and given targets which they may not meet in 18 hours. And he says, until you achieve that, you do not leave. You cannot leave. That's slave labor. And, conditions in which some work is going on, is extremely problematic.
All right.
So I think we need to address all of these in order to go forward. Luckily, the Honorable Minister, there had been a job summit that under the auspices of the ministry before you came, in which the ILO, the NLC, and various other groups were involved. I think we need to revisit the outcome of that summit and then see how we can fine-tune to the present conditions in order to properly address the crisis in the labor market.
All right, Dr. Edson, thank you very much, at least for your position on this so far. We'll come back to take a look at what other things to do actually address aspects of unemployment. Yes, earlier on, we introduced Moses Sears here, chairman of the Nigerian Young Professionals Forum. Of course, having listened to both the Honorable Minister and also the Secretary General for Nigerian Labour Congress, I'm sure you want to have a detour from some of the areas raised. Unemployment is there, and the young people actually today are said to have those skills that are not actually marketable. What is your own view of what is happening really with unemployment generally today?
Well, I quite appreciate the level of reasoning by the Honorable Minister and the Secretary of the NLC. But, it's very imperative for me to state here that the issue of unemployment is a global issue. And the issue of unemployment in Nigeria is very worrisome. Today, we have a huge army of unemployed young people. We have over 85% of youth unemployment rate. And this figure is very, very worrisome. And I think that, there is no deliberate plan on the part of stakeholders. So now we can harness the mass energy of our young people into productive ventures. The issue of unemployment in Nigeria has gone beyond unionism. And the Honorable Minister spoke about, civil service. He spoke about, the Secretary spoke about, the labor union. But we are talking about how we can actually deliberately create entrepreneurs in our economic space. Because today, look at our GDP growth. It has actually gone down. Since 2005, now our GDP growth is about 2.11. And this figure is very worrisome. And we believe, as the Nigerian Young Professionals Forum, one of our culture is to also encourage entrepreneurship. We need to deliberately create that culture of entrepreneurship in the lives of our young people. The reason why we have found ourselves in this position today, and I keep telling people in any way I find myself, even in public forums, is because of the age of ideas that are running the system today. Today, we live in a globalized world. We live in a world that is propelled by information and communication technology that is central to a knowledge-based global economy. And you find out when you come to Nigeria, you see a lot of young energy, young people doing a lot of things. Mind you, those who are actually bringing glory and projecting the collective image of this country are young people. Look at our creative industry. Look at the amount of jobs that have been created. Look at the entertainment industry. Look at the Nollywood industry. Look at the IT sector, the information, the e-commerce, the e-payments, the e-education. And look at our agriculture, young people, look at what they're doing. So we need, as stakeholders, to create an opportunity for these young businesses to strive. I'm also an employer of labor. Whether you like it or not, the situation we find ourselves today is very worrisome. And I've also laid off some staff. Because if I'm not getting jobs, if I'm not busy, my company is not busy, and I'm paying people at the end of the month, most times I had to go and borrow money to pay salaries. So we can't continue like this. And I think that, there's something that, stakeholders fail to understand. Fine, quite all right. There are some young people that have been gainfully employed. There is no doubt about that. But we need to promote the culture of entrepreneurship for young people to be self-reliant. Today, in the kind of society we're living, a lot of people see government as the only employer of labor. Look at the private sector today. Private sector, can also employ our young people. The private sector plays a very key role. What are the regulations? What are the policies? I understand that, there are certain steps and requirements that, you need to take for you to lay out some stuff. But today, what level of encouragement are we getting from the system as businessmen, young businesses? How many, what are the programs available by government, available by stakeholders to encourage young businesses that we have in our society today? And that's what the world is focusing on. Look at, for example, the American government, led by President Obama. Today, in Nigeria, some of our leaders don't know this. They have encouraged a lot of young businesses in Nigeria. So with the Yali platform, President Obama is meeting with young Nigerians, young Africans. Look at back home, how many stakeholders, how many of our governors, our president can sit down with young business owners. Today in Nigeria, we 180 million people. We have, when they say richest man, it's just only one person they mention. It's not supposed to be. Our capital and our advantage is the population that we have. We have a lot of young people who are very industrious, who are very hardworking, who are very self-reliant, but what incentives are we providing for these young people to strive in their various businesses? And that's why we have launched a program in the Nigerian Young Professionals Forum called the Yes Grant. The Yes Grant is for young entrepreneurs, to encourage young entrepreneurs, in their various businesses. And we are looking at 3 sectors of the economy.
Mr. Moses, yes, we'll give you the opportunity to elaborate on the access schemes that you have, to get young persons to become entrepreneurs on their own. There are details that we'll deal with in the course of this conversation. And just to also advise that we have a number of tweets that have come in already. A number of viewers have taken advantage of the Twitter handle right there on the screen at NTAGMN. Maybe Blessing will take some of the tweets very quickly, and then we go over again to the Honorable Minister before we go to Lagos.
Yes. Okay, for Otobong Isepong, it says our problem is in our education system. Our schools train job seekers instead of entrepreneurs. Invest more in vocational training.
Joseph Richard tweets, unemployment can be tackled if the Ministry of Labor and Employment can look into who is to retire and who is to be employed.
For Hamad Mahmoud, Muhammad says, Nigerians, we're not serious with effort to diversify our natural and human resources. We have no need to wait, but generate employment opportunities. What are we waiting for?
Now, Nanma Shashohot, this is a mouthful, by the way. Yeah, Nanma Shashohot tweets, the Honorable Minister is not saying anything on the ongoing rate of unemployment. I want to ask him, what is the rate of unemployment in Nigeria?
Those are some of
the tweets that have come in the meantime. We'll take others in the course of the conversation. But let's return to the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you did say, of course, you were sworn in along with your colleagues on the 11th of November last year. Yeah. But you've settled into the job, and we were reported to have said sometime in the recent past that young Nigerians needed to acquire technical skills in order to be able to function in the 21st century economy. Now, you also indicated that you were going to ramp up, the quality of various skills acquisition centers. Now, how many of such centers are available, and whose effort will it be in trying to ramp them up? Private sector or public sector or both?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think there was a tweet, the first tweet you read. It answers this question a little bit. Yes. Our education system has been faulty. The curricula is based on white-collar jobs, job seekers, people who want to stay in air-conditioned offices, writing memos, people who do accounting, and people who will be doing public relations. I don't know the secondary schools that have carpentry. That's what is being taught. In the olden times, you had the government technical colleges, and they issue you City and Guild certificates. There you can learn painting, You can learn carpentry. You can learn welding. You can learn bricklaying, tile laying, and the rest of them all. They have gone extinct. We didn't follow up. There is no Ghanaian child that has gone to a secondary school that has not come out with one skill or one vocation. Either sewing, dressmaking, or POP, laying, and the rest of them all. So we want to intervene. That is why we have in this budget 500 billion allocated to all intervention projects that will be social intervention. Like he is saying, the 500,000 teachers, if you're a graduate of engineering, law, physical sciences, that's physics, chemistry, or biological sciences, botany, zoology, biochemistry, microbiology, and you can't get a job, you come into a teaching program. We give you an emergency teaching program on teaching practice, teaching methods, and what have you, and then deploy you to go and teach. Some will teach in primary schools, some will teach in secondary schools. But we must synchronize them with the states because the schools are in the states. So 500,000 persons will be, and if we've done this budget cycle, we also have skill acquisition there. We intend to do 10,000 per state, 10,000 persons per state. We have the skill acquisition centers scattered all over the country. NDE, that's National Director of Employment, will anchor it. It's part of their job. Is the law, in the laws establishing NDE, job employment, and creation. So they in NDE they have about 120 skill acquisition centers. We in the ministry we have specialized ones in the zones: Lagos, Bauchi, Kano, Calabar, Enugu, Warri, and the rest of them. We have about 10 specialized centers. If you go and do the normal basic skill of vocational acquisition, you step up and you come to these specialized ones. At these specialized ones, you can earn certificates that are equivalent to the City and Guilds. We call it trade test 1, 2, 3. They are recognizable overseas. The European Union recognizes it. So when you acquire that, we can even export you to go and work abroad under legitimate and legal conditions of a bona fide resident alien. So it's not, I don't agree with my young friend that is only entrepreneurship. No. Skill acquisition is part of it. We want to get people into blue-collar jobs. You will see technicians, they wear blue overall. That's blue-collar. The people of white, very few. Those in hospitals, those in studio.
Including yourself, a medical doctor?
Well, I'm a white man, a white collar, but I also have blue skills because I can use my hands and employ myself. That is important thing. So we want to create a situation where these young people can employ themselves. Entrepreneurship, Bank of Industry is doing a lot in entrepreneurship. It's a parastatal under the Ministry of Trade and Investment of the federal government. ITF, they're also doing entrepreneurship. Central Bank of Nigeria, under their corporate social responsibility, they have a big scheme for 200 billion. It's there. And people will now do entrepreneurship and access the funds as loan. Ministry of Agriculture, in the new budget we're talking about, under the second intervention fund, they will have some money for young people who want to enter into agriculture. They will give you the money. They provide even the farm, rice, paddy, and the rest of them, or buy the rice from you and net out. So we want people to start using their hands to assist themselves and assist their country.
Okay, well, Honorable Minister, we'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Blessing, just some coincidence. The Honorable Minister, who is also a medical doctor, is in white. Probably that's a white-collar job. And the other assistant secretary is in blue. So, but it's an economist. So anyway, let's go over. We've kept him waiting for quite a while. We're going back now to our Lagos Network Center, where we allow introduce Mr. Abdul Ganiyu Mohammed. Is divisional head SMEs South on the Bank of Industry. Mr. Abdul Ganiyu Mohammed, you've listened, of course, to the contributions of the other three guests who are with us here in the Abuja studios. But specifically now, you heard the Honorable Minister indicate just now that even the Bank of Industry has a number of schemes to ensure that persons get employed or get engaged, or the economy gets moving in terms of activity and therefore job creation. Specifically, the acting managing director of your bank, that's Mr. Wahid Olagunju, was reported to have said recently that, look, the unemployment figures that we are seeing could be slashed by as much as 25%. How is the Bank of Industry contributing to this indication of reducing the unemployment rate in the country?
Thank you very much. What we did was to identify the looming unemployment problem in the country, particularly amongst the youth. Now, Bank of Industry as a development finance institution was established to also promote wealth and job creation. So we looked at various studies. We looked at the studies prepared by the National Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research in 2013, that's NISA, where it stated that there are lots of training programs for youth in the country, skills acquisition programs, but one critical element was lacking, and that is empowerment, funding. So we saw that as a challenge, and it was also an opportunity for us to intervene. So we came up with 3 programs. The first one we looked at was the one targeted at the National Youth Service Corps members, because this is a situation where these chaps have left school, they've gone into the National Youth Service. What awaits them out there in the society? So we thought we should empower them, we should train them, build their capacities, and then fund them, so that by the time they are leaving camp finally, when they are discharged from the youth service, they already have something to do. They become entrepreneurs, they become employers of labor themselves. So what we did was to do an online competition where we invited applications from serving National Youth Service Corps members. And we had 3,150 entries. And we put this through a test, a program, and then we ran this, we reviewed all their business ideas, very brilliant business ideas. And we came up with 1,000 of them that we finally took to various NYC camps in 7 locations in the country, where we trained them over a period of 3 days on entrepreneurship. And we did this in collaboration with the National Youth Service Corps Directorate. So they've been very supportive, and they are quite strong in this scheme. And for that scheme, the Graduate Entrepreneurship Fund, we have 2 billion naira for these young National Youth Service Corps members. And out of the 1,000 we trained, out of the 1,000 that we qualified for the training, 800 participated, and we have 360 of them that have applied for loans from the bank, and these are being approved as we speak today. So they're entitled to a maximum of 2 million naira each. And then, of course, we also looked at those that are already in the market, in the unemployment market, because every year the National Youth Service Corps admits about 250,000 young graduates from our various institutions into the National Youth Service Scheme. And then these ones come out, and then most of them have nothing to do. So we came up with the Youth Entrepreneurship Support Program. That is a 10 billion naira scheme, where we envisage we are going to fund 1,200 young aspiring entrepreneurs to the tune of 5 million naira each. And the way that program runs is in 3 segments. The first segment, which is running online now, is to invite applications from these youths. And then once they apply, we envisage that we'll have about 2,000 of them will qualify on the online program, and then we take them through 8 weeks of entrepreneurship capacity building, which they will do online. At the end of 8 weeks, what will come out of that program is a workbook that represents their business ideas. It's just like a preliminary business plan. And then subsequently, we now take them through a 5-day intensive classroom entrepreneurship capacity building program in about 8 locations in the country. So we expect that the online registration will end at the end of April, and then we now screen them for the 8 weeks online training program. So there is 10 billion naira at stake there. We expect that we'll be able to create 36,000 jobs out of that scheme. And then the Honorable Minister mentioned the issue of skills acquisition. We take that very seriously, because if you look at Nigeria today, people who are into construction, people who are into various endeavors, they do not have skilled manpower to carry out jobs they want to do. Simple masonry, electrical works, plumbing, welding, and the rest of them. We hardly have qualified skills persons in the country, especially amongst the youth. Most times we go to our neighbors in the West Coast to get skilled labor for our construction works and other things we do. So we now came out with a vocational skills acquisition program in collaboration with the NBT, National Board for Technical Education. We looked at the various technical and vocational skills institutions in the country that are accredited by the NBT, and we had a competition where we looked at about 7 skills. We looked at plumbing, we looked at welding, we looked at electrical works, we looked at fashion, we looked at mechanics and mechatronics. And at the end of it all, for each of these skills, we had 3 winners. And those 3 winners were given cash awards ranging from 200,000 down to about 50,000. But the first winner, the winner of each of those vocational skills got equipment worth 2 million naira. But then it's not enough to just give them equipment. We had to get them attached to some established companies in the various skills. For instance, we have those into furniture and joinery, and we got 2 of our customers in that area who are top, who produce world-class furniture, to admit them to become their mentors, because they will mentor them so that by the time they are ripe to go into the market, they have the tools, they have the knowledge, they have the skills, and they have the equipment to go out there to do whatever they want to do. So in a nutshell, those are the 3 programs we brought out, particularly to address youth unemployment, because it is something that there's no one in this country that is not affected by it. In every household, there is at least one person that is unemployed in this country, and it is something we think we should be able to address. It is something we should be able to stimulate so that others can also key into such programs. And then, of course, we'll be able to do something about youth unemployment to a large scale. Thank you.
Mr. Abdul Ghani Mohammed, thank you very much. But your Bank of Industry operates system-wide. In other words, it covers the entire country. So from your evaluation so far, how much of a dent has your bank made through these various initiatives on the unemployment situation? That's one leg of it. Second leg is in trying to fill in the gap that you identified in terms of lack of access to funding and for specific kinds of skills. What were the major challenges you found, particularly with regard to the persons who were presenting themselves to be participants in your programs or beneficiaries in your program?
Okay, we operate nationwide. Right now we have 15 state offices, with the 16th one coming up most likely by the end of this month. So we try to reach as many people as possible in terms of trying to fund them for their various enterprises. So what we have found, there are so many challenges involved in entrepreneurship, so many challenges. Some are infrastructure, some are You have issues of multiple taxation. You have issues of you have capacity building, because a number of them don't even really understand what it takes to go into business. Because there's a difference between when somebody earns revenue and profit. But in most cases, we realize that what they consider as profit is revenue that comes in, not considering the fact that there are overheads that should be taken care of by this revenue. You have to pay salaries, you have to take care of some facilities in the business and the rest of them. So whatever is the extra of that is what you consider your profit. You are even supposed to pay yourself a salary, you know. But in most cases, we don't have that, and most of these small businesses don't keep records. So those are some of the challenges we have identified, and we are even profiling solutions to identifying these challenges. As for the youth, quite a number of them have fantastic ideas, but then they need to be guided. So part of what we are doing is when they submit a business proposal, we try to guide them as to what we think will work, or we look at the pitfalls and advise them to say, if you go this way, you might have issues. So it has to be something that will work. And then, of course, we encourage businesses with value addition, because we look at the comparative advantages of the various locations of this country, and guided by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, which says African countries should now emphasize commodity-based industrialization. That means we have to utilize our various natural resources and convert them into, you know, secondary products, rather than us just exporting raw produce that have no value added, and at the end of the day, our poor farmers, our poor miners earn little or nothing compared to what they should have earned if they had added value to these things. So most of the programs we develop are geared towards utilizing our comparative advantages, particularly in terms of our natural resources around the country. Right now, we are doing cluster-based funding, where we identified 40 product clusters, and our lending is targeted along those 40 product clusters in order to, you know, stimulate the economies of the various locations where these raw materials are located.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Abdulganiu. Mohammed, we'll be back to you to take on the last aspects of the comments, really. Okay, back to us in Abuja. Yes, for Mr. Siasia, let's take a look at some of those areas that we should be doing things differently. Sometimes we feel this government approach to entrepreneurial development policies, should it really just be one cap fits all? So what are the young professionals forum doing differently, or should be doing, to actually key into some of these areas that have been raised?
Our focus is actually to complement the efforts of government at all levels. I want to sincerely appreciate what the BOI is doing. And I'm somebody who believes that the government can't do it all. All stakeholders, all hands needs to be on deck to ensure that this issue of unemployment is being looked into. The young professionals, we have a culture. There's a lot of people who are also gainfully employed that are members of our organization. And the majority of those who form the membership of the Nigerian Young Professionals Forum are young entrepreneurs, young business owners, people who are actually doing well in their various businesses and their choice of career. The most important thing that we need to actually take note of, you know, in encouraging young businesses in Nigeria. The man from BOI from Lagos has actually mentioned some of the challenges that are faced by young businesses in Nigeria. And most importantly, the issue of power is a very critical element in the challenges that young businesses are faced with in Nigeria today. And I believe that it is not, we shouldn't be left for government alone. And that's why we have taken the bull by the horn, taking our destiny in our hands to also work constructively to see how we can actually harness and galvanize the issues of entrepreneurial culture that we have in our country today. The Honourable Minister mentioned about skill acquisition centers. Somebody who is actually acquiring skills, somebody who is person who is going to be self-reliant, and that person could be described as an entrepreneur. So I believe too that these institutions that when I was growing up, I used to see those institutions, the skill acquisition centers, government technical development centers, and all that. These are institutions that is established by government to build skills of young people. Now those institutions are no more, and it's not my generation that will be held that should be responsible for that. So I know that we have a lot of problems, but we are not looking at the problems, we are looking at solutions. So we are also helping government, to create employment, to create entrepreneurial culture in the lives of young people. And I believe that, because of the 3 sectors that we are actually focusing on in our entrepreneurship program, which is agriculture, creative industry, and information and communication technology, that is central to a knowledge-based global economy. Now, agriculture, the government is also looking at programs. The government is coming out with policies, how to drive agriculture, and also how to, include.
What response have you been getting in this direction with the government?
It's quite the response is very encouraging. At a point, our website, because the program that we created is not open for the public. It's just only for members of the Nigerian Young Professionals Forum, which we have a membership strength of over 3 million people, young people. So, but our website went down when we launched this program because you find a lot of young people who actually need help, in their businesses in terms of funding. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moses Siasia, Chairman of Nigerian Young Professionals Forum. We appreciate your contribution on the program this morning. Definitely, we'll see how the young people actually latch onto what you have been promoting all day. This is Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a break at this point to bring some messages. We'll be right back with the other guests, and also we'll be joined by another young professional still doing something.
Does your antiseptic liquid kill the germs that cause flu, diarrhea, typhoid? Dettol does. Dettol provides 10 times more protection versus leading competition. Dettol is the #1 selling antiseptic liquid, proven to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs. So why take a risk with your loved ones?
Introducing the new Dettol 55-gram soap with the same germ protection and quality at a more affordable price. Buy the new Dettol 55-gram soap for 80 Naira only. Keep your family protected from germs.
Are you aware that the death percentage attributed to Lassa fever cases is currently put at 43.2%, a figure considered very high? Lassa fever, an acute viral illness characterized by high fever, muscle aches, mouth ulcers, and bleeding in the skin, is harbored by rats and spread to humans via the urine and droppings of rats. To prevent Lassa fever, avoid any exposure with rodents, rats, as well as food and objects contaminated with rat secretions and excretions. Report all suspected cases of Lassa fever immediately to the nearest healthcare institution. Help prevent Lassa fever. This message is from the Federal Government of Nigeria.
Helen! Would you like some water? It's cold, especially for you.
Which era are you living in? We have a fridge.
When everything else in your house is from the present, then why are your toilet cleaning methods from the past? Harpic, all-in-one for you. Compared to other toilet cleaners, Harpic removes top stains, kills all germs, and removes bad odors. For a shining, clean, and fresh toilet.
Wow.
You should also take the Harpic
all-in-one challenge.
To keep my family healthy, I take time to make everything look clean.
Yes, but is it really clean? Let me show you. This is why 8 90% of hygiene-related illnesses are acquired at home. Some cleaners don't kill germs, others kill germs, but don't clean properly. The new Dettol Multi-Surface Cleaner. 10 times better germ kill, 10 times better cleaning, and all-day freshness. 10 times better cleaning and germ kill for a healthy home.
Dettol, endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Buy the new Dettol 55-gram soap for 80 naira only. Keep your family protected from germs.
It's Good Morning Nigeria, still reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. And as you can see from the caption on the screen there, we are this morning looking at how to address the unemployment situation in Nigeria. We still have with us in the studio here in Abuja the Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment, as well as the Secretary General of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Dr. Ozoeson, as well as, of course, a guest from the Bank of Industry at our Lagos Network Center. We just signed off Moses here a moment ago, but we are being joined now by another guest with us here in the Abuja studios, Mr. Kayode Ajayi-Smith, is the founder of Joint Initiative for Development. Mr. Ajayi-Smith, it's our pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, just before we pop first set of questions to you, let's just remind our viewers that we have a number of tweets that have come in already, but we'll take some of them very briefly now, Blessing, before we proceed with further questions.
Okay, for Henry Okrikpa, it says, has the Honorable Minister of Labour forgotten so soon how governors fought the federal government to share the Sovereign Wealth Fund? Were they not emphasizing the rainy day then?
Emmanuel Abulime tweets, Honorable Minister, is your ministry ready to do away with quota system for the sake of merit in recruitment process?
Sani Michael Makoji, Honorable Minister, some establishments engage in backyard recruitment, e.g. the Central Bank of Nigeria's case. If yes, what is the hope of the common man?
Ibeneme Dominic tweets, let the federal government establish mega farms and processing factories. Now, those that have finished their NYSC should be used to run them to crash unemployment.
For Brini, he says, when the skills are acquired, what are the medium placed to give contract to this set of people with such skills?
Febechi Mbanefo tweets, it's easier said than done. Now, accessing funds from the Bank of Agriculture is not that easy for young persons who are willing to go into agriculture.
And for Mega Claims, Minister, we encourage youth to learn skills, but we build universities everywhere. Shouldn't we be building skills acquisition centers?
Oladimeji JS tweets, I hope to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Greetings to all in the studios. So we'll return to the studios now. Let's begin. It's the NLC Secretary, General Secretary. The emphasis would appear to be on entrepreneurship, be your own employer, the curriculum is defective, and so on and so forth, but you have to have skills to be able to function in an economy. Are we having the right accent in terms of focusing on how we can get people prepared, to function in an economy?
Well, this one, I'll talk as an economist. I think we have really confused the issues, and we are creating a situation that is not happening. And the issue of entrepreneurship versus the issue of skill acquisition, I think we need to be clear. They're not the same thing. That you have a skill or as a carpenter does not mean you must therefore establish a business. You can be employed by an existing business to be a carpenter. Dangote, I'm sure, may not have the skills to produce cement, but he's an entrepreneur. He set up the environment in which that business thrives, and various other businesses thrive. So when we continue, and our educational system, I think, is making this mistake. When we said, oh, teach entrepreneurship in the university, you do this, the proportion, historically, of entrepreneurs in any nation is a minuscule. It's not everybody who is an entrepreneur. As a matter of fact, in those days, it used to be said that entrepreneurs are born. Well, more these days, you said they can also be trained, which is fine. But everybody is not going to be an entrepreneur. But the problem is, in our manufacturing establishments, we now reach the stage in our development in which a manufacturer employs graduates, but it feels they must have to be heavily retrained in order for them to be able to function. As an engineer, you are employed in a firm and you are unable to deliver the services you are supposed to do. And I think that what we need to focus on is that, one, the unemployment problem we're having is of different dimensions. There are cases in which we have no skills to perform, to be employed in establishments, and yet there are people who have no jobs. And that is why even an expatriate quota is being abused. Sure. You bring in people to take, in the guise that those skills do not exist. If you are doing construction, you bring in people from West African countries and all that. Whereas what we need to do is to ensure that these skills are created. Once they are created, if 100 people are given skills and they are properly now trained, maybe 2 of them may choose to become entrepreneurs, risk takers, and they will establish firms and they will employ others. So I think we need to distinguish between the deficit of skills and the issue of entrepreneurship. Until we get it right, we will continue to just mess up the system. And I think it is fundamental in designing a proper education intervention, in terms of long-run solution, and in terms of even what we are doing now. When IT, information technology, with our youths, including my son, are doing, they are all in it, and they are doing well in it. It is not every IT person that is an entrepreneur. A Silicon Valley, we are not just a valley of entrepreneurs. They were entrepreneurs, but that brought many people who had those skills together in order to function.
We'll let you take some breathers there. Of course, Kingsley introduced Mr. Kayode Ajayi-Smith just a while ago. Now, of course, there have been different polarization to all the segments who are supposed to be needing what skills. But placing the people at the center of development policies is key. We know you are into training as well. How do we begin to help out in this direction?
Thank you very much. First of all, I like to start from where the General Secretary started from. I like the fact that he's placing a huge dichotomy between the skills that are people needing skills and the training of entrepreneurs. I'm always very cautious in advising young people to go into entrepreneurship because, number one, skills are lacking. And I've seen it over time in the course of my work. We train a lot of young people every day. We take them to organizations to be placed. And one of the key issues that a lot of private organizations are complaining about are skills, not just their technical skills for a start, but their soft skills. Because, for instance, I recall that the World Economic Forum, that was just concluded some months back, they listed a couple of skills that they feel that will be needed within the 21st century. And just to mention a few of them, we have complex problem solving, critical thinking, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, negotiation skills, and a whole lot of that. Now, if a young person doesn't have, for instance, emotional intelligence in the workplace, how does he intend to run a business of his own? Business is not a regular Joe thing that you jump into and decide that you are just going to start a business and start making money. It's not about just making money. It's a lot. It has a lot to that it encompasses. So, for instance, in our own case, we've looked at the fact that the education system is not preparing people for the kind of workplace in which they are going into. It is obvious. So, for us, we are beginning to look inwards to say, okay, if the education system is not providing us the kind of resource that we need in the workplace, okay, then they've already left the university. We can't take them back to the university again to say we are training them all over again. It will cost government a lot of money to start doing, for instance, the City and Guild that the minister mentioned. It will cost you like $2,000 or £2,000 to be able to get a City and Guild certificate, which we cannot afford. So what do we do then? We need to begin to look inward in terms of, say, for instance, internships, And that's what we do, you know, trying to ensure that while the people work on the job, they can still acquire on-the-job skills. For instance, if you work on the job, the best way to learn how to do anything is by doing it. So if we put you on an internship over a period of 6 months and you earn, say, a stipend that covers the cost of your transportation, maybe lunch or something, on the long run, people will be willing to teach you. I started, you know, through an internship. I could even say it's as much as volunteering. And by the time I had worked at a certain point, my employer said to me, you are even working even more than the people who will pay salary. Let's start paying you. And that's how I started getting paid. I keep telling this story because I'm not saying what I don't do. I'm saying what I did. And from there, I gained a lot of skills. People were willing to teach me. People were willing to teach me how to use Microsoft Excel, for instance, how to use Microsoft PowerPoint. And I learned a lot from my internship. And afterwards, then proceeded. Yes.
Let me ask this question because, again, like the NLC General Secretary was saying, sometimes we have a conflation of concepts. I hear it said repeatedly that, okay, some of the graduates or most of the graduates being produced these days are not industry ready. Take journalism, for example. What happened about 30 or so years ago when the new wave of new journalism hit? You found persons who didn't train in mass communication from other disciplines who came onto the job. Some of them didn't know how to write a story, but it was in the course, of being mentored on the job that they became great journalists covering specialized sections. Science. So what is it? Is it that, look, you want industry-ready persons? I mean, if an architect becomes a journalist, for instance, he has to be trained on the job. So do you find this dichotomy important? Do you see it that, look, employers are just discriminating against fresh graduates?
I don't think employers are discriminating against, to some extent, I would say that I'm not saying employers are saints, but I'm saying that skills, the basic skills are lacking. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know, if you run a business, would you allow somebody to come and start learning on the job at the expense of you paying that person for learning on the job? That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that those skills, for instance, those basic skills, for instance, somebody does not even have, we've hired people that don't even know how to send emails. Some people don't have email culture.
These are communication skills you're talking about.
Exactly, those are skills. So I'm saying that beyond technical skills, let's leave technical skills aside. Of course, the university have done well by, training them on those technical specifications. You're an accountant, you've learned how to use what they call it, Microsoft Excel, but things are changing by the day. So even when you have the skills, it is your soft skills that keep you on the job. It's your soft skills that keeps you on the job because, for instance, if you look at it from the angle that somebody is an admin staff and the person does not have character or does not know how to relate with individuals, so how does the person doesn't have emotional intelligence?
Yes. You get fired if that happens. Yes. All right, Honorable Minister, let's get your closing thoughts on this. I mean, you had the privilege of running a state. Yes. We keep talking oftentimes, about the role of the subnational governments in terms of expanding the job space or also creating the enabling environment. We've had a rash of schemes. You win, GES, and so on and so forth. Skill acquisition has been a slogan since the onset of the beginning of the Fourth Republic. What is it that we need to do, or you would like to see done more at the subnational level in order to add to whatever measures are being taken at the federal level?
Well, subnational level, I think you mean the states. The states are the federating units of the country. And I can tell you, in a federation, the federal government decides the powers given to them by the states. If you look at our constitution, the land is in the states. The people are in the states. So it's the state governments actually that should sit up more. Federal government have been doing some intervention in education, in agriculture, in fertilizer and the rest of them all, which they're not supposed to be doing. But this is because if you look at the constitution, in section 14, 2B, the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of the people.
So the federal government cannot just forget the people. I would have wanted a situation where the state governments will go into a lot of farming. They have the land. The land use vast powers of the land on the governors of states. It's them that should enter agriculture. It's them that should enter mining.
So what's stopping them, Honorable Minister?
I don't know.
Perhaps you need to look into that.
Yes, we will. Because you see, if you go to the Constitution again, the derivation principle that is enshrined there does not say it's for oil only. It's for the natural resources of the country. So if you export columbite from Plateau and the money comes back, you take 13% of it minimum. Because if you diversify now, I can tell you that the revenue allocation formula will change. 13% is only baseline, minimum. You can get up to 25% to say whatever you export, whatever proceed you bring back, you can take 25% of it. So I want the state government to sit up. My young friend talked about the entrepreneurship and the skill. Skill is not limited to mechanical skill or technical skill only. No. Even information technology. Right now, the federal government were in a sort of collaboration with Huawei. They are training about 1,000 Nigerians, out of which they will take about 200 to China on information technology. And they will employ about those 200, give us back about 800, and we'll deploy them.
All right.
So it's not only a technical skill, but we need Nigerians to start acquiring technical skills because it's paying.
That's
Use
right.
your hands and it will pay.
Okay.
I thank you, Secretary General, for the exposition, the illumination you gave on entrepreneurship.
Well, thank you on your behalf.
We'll thank you on your behalf, Senator Chris Ngige, Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment. Would like to thank you for being with us on the program today. Your contribution was very well received. Thank you for being with
You're
us.
welcome.
We also would like to thank the General Secretary of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Dr. Peter Ozoiso. It's our pleasure that you were with us.
Thank you.
And then also, I would like to thank Mr. Kaude Ajayi-Smith. Your time with us was brief, but your contributions very well received. Founder, Joint Initiative for Development, thank you. And then also from our Lagos Network Center, we are this time signing off Mr. Abdul Ghani Mohammed, is Divisional Head of SMB South of the Bank of Industry. Mr. Mohammed, thank you for being with us.
Okay.
Let's take at least one of our companion segments now before we call it a day.
Oh, well, I think the time will not permit us to do that. We'll just take a look at what the weather prospect will be for the rest of the day.
Good to have you join us on today's weather forecast. Satellite imagery shows widespread of rainfall activities in most parts of the country and moist laden winds up to the extreme part of the country. And this is expected to further build up weather activities in the next 24 hours. So we anticipate overnight thunderstorms that may linger into early hours rainfall over Ilorin, Yawa, Mina, and their environ. Over Mambela, we expect localized thunderstorms to prevail there, while the remaining part of the country will witness cloudy conditions. And later on, we anticipate build-up of weather activities over Maduguri and their environ. Sokoto also will witness some pockets of thunderstorms. The high grounds of the central cities down to the south will also witness some thunderstorms. For temperature forecast, we anticipate 34 degrees over Abuja, while 43 degrees over Maiduguri. For details in temperature forecast, stay tuned. And from Nigerian Meteorological Agency, bye for now.
Many thanks. And that concludes Good Morning Nigeria for today, the first one for this week. My name is Blessing Abu. We appreciate your company. Do enjoy the rest of the day.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo, and I join Blessing in thanking you for starting your day with us. We are back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Do have a nice day.